Good afternoon. Happy to see everybody here. My name is Ann Graham, and I am Executive Director of Texans for the Arts, the statewide arts advocacy organization. Welcome to our inaugural Texans for the Arts Advocacy Action update. This is a new series, a weekly session from 4 o'clock to 4:15 every Wednesday afternoon on Facebook Live that we hope you join us every week to learn more about the work that we do in the advocacy arena and to learn more about how you can give voice to support the arts in your community. Texans for the Arts is the statewide arts advocacy organization whose mission is to secure, protect, and grow the public investment in the arts and to support public policy that supports the arts and culture sector in the state of Texas. We work year-round at the state, the local, and the national level, working for you, the field, and our communities to increase resources and to strengthen the conversation about why the arts are so important across our state. We intentionally started today on Veterans Day to honor both our veterans and military service personnel for their service to our country, and also to share with you examples of the power of the arts to heal, to build connections between veterans and members of our civil society that are not in the military, and to learn from veterans about the impact of their service and their experience on their lives and on our lives as well. Next week, we're going to look at the 87th Texas legislative session, the impact of the election, and every week after that, other themes that will be coming up throughout the course of the Texas legislative session, which starts in January of 2021. Today, I would like to introduce our three speakers who will be joining us in this conversation about the arts and veterans and members of the military, including Dr. Gary Gibbs, the Executive Director of the Texas Commission on the Arts, which is our state arts commission, Charlie Lockwood, the Executive Director of Texas Folklife, and Celia Hughes, the Executive Director of Art Spark Texas. Gary, I'm going to turn it over to you. Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. I'm delighted to be here with you today and talk about how the arts can impact the lives of veterans and military personnel. Several years ago, the National Endowment for the Arts, the federal agency, began a new initiative called Creative Forces, and it focused on returning military personnel who were suffering from PTSD or traumatic brain injury in clinical settings. And early on, Texas was selected to be part of the pilot project of Creative Forces. And in fact, continuing to today, at Fort Hood in Killeen, there are art therapists, a music therapist, and an arts therapist that are embedded in the Intrepid Forces clinic that deals with soldiers who return from combat situations and are suffering from PTSD. And they found this treatment to be extremely beneficial to these soldier patients. What we've done at the state level is again, several years ago, we had a big conference that focused on that. It was the first time for an arts conference to be held on a military base, which we did at Fort Hood. And we had people from all over the state come to learn kind of best practices in working with this population. Then we began to award grants. And last session, Texans for the Arts and other advocates were able to get us a few more dollars, specifically focused on helping the veterans and active military personnel and their family. And so you can apply for a grant from us under the Arts Respond Project grants in the Health and Human Services category, and you can focus on this population, and we are able to fund you at a higher level than in most of our other Arts Respond categories. So I encourage you to consider that. Almost every community has veterans and military personnel throughout our state. And if you can come up with a great project that impacts those people, those vets and soldiers and their families, then we're able to fund that through the Arts Respond projects. And that deadline coming up for that submission is January the 15th. So with that, I'll turn it over to Celia Hughes from ArtSpark, Texas.
Thanks, Gary. I appreciate it. And I love the partnership that ArtSpark has with both TCA and Texans for the Arts. It's been very rewarding. ArtSpark Texas' mission is to challenge perceptions of how people contribute to society by creating arts-inspired, inclusive communities of individuals. And one of those communities that we have worked with for over 10 years are veterans. And our work with veterans started through a gallery that we operated, but also through a wonderful collaboration with the TCA and NEA and an organization in California, the National Arts and Disability Center. And from that, we started to survey what was happening in the state around arts programs for veterans and recognize the need for us to really try to take the lead in organizing these programs. So we have done a number of activities, and we do an annual exhibit that you'll hear about a little bit later. We started doing writing programs about 4 years ago. And last year we did a huge writers conference, a 3-day conference in conjunction with the Austin Veterans Arts Festival. And now through Creative Forces, we are offering a large number of online classes in art appreciation, creating your story, music making, theater, drama, all specifically for veterans and veteran families. We couldn't have done it without our partnerships. We have well over 400 veterans on our artist roster. So you need to go to artsparktx.org to sign up to be on our newsletter and to learn more about what is out there for our veterans across Texas. But one of our wonderful partners that we have forged through our relationship with the TCA is with Texas Folklife. And so I'm going to throw it to Charlie and let him talk a little bit about who they are and what we are doing together as a team.
Great, thanks, Celia, and thank you, Anne, and the Texans for the Arts team. Great to be with you all. I want to say that all these organizations and institutions, I think, have worked collaboratively to learn more about how we can serve the veteran community across Texas and their families. So Celia and ArtSpark Texas have been instrumental in helping us build relationships because as an organization, our mission is to present, celebrate, and help facilitate the continuation of folk and traditional arts and community-based cultural expressions across the state. And the work that we do involves building relationships with communities. And military veterans and their families are a distinct community with their own traditions and sort of way of being in the world. And for us, documenting and sort of celebrating and understanding those traditions and that folklore or that idea of tradition and narratives about the world is really important as a way of creating understanding. I think that there can be a disconnect between those that serve and the rest of the general public, and that experience of being a veteran and serving is something that is not easily translatable. And so we're trying to create dialogue and conversations. And so what we've done is done a few workshops with veterans and family members about learning how to do storytelling, learning how to document their own traditions and narratives. We do some media production work that has resulted in some broadcast quality and more raw audio documentaries based on the experiences of veterans. And then with the support of TCA, as Gary mentioned, the Arts Respond funding for doing this kind of work, we were able to continue a relationship we have with a mentor artist from the Federated States of Micronesia, who's now a Texas resident, who is a master artist in a stick dance tradition from Micronesia. And we've learned so much about sort of that relationship between the Federated States and the U.S. military. And there's many individuals from the area that serve in the U.S. Armed Forces. And there's been several communities that have cropped up in Texas as a result of that, and the military bases around the state. And so we've been helping this individual, who is a veteran combat medic, to sort of build the tools to document, celebrate, and teach that stick dance tradition to other members of his community, including the next generation, and for the next generation to also learn how to document the traditions and oral histories of their elders through storytelling techniques. So we've been working with broad communities of veterans as well as specific communities of veterans. And that has been a great experience for us. I think the project that Celia also mentioned is a collaboration between ArtSpark and Texas Folklife, is a virtual gallery exhibit of curated works by military veterans. So I'm going to quickly share my screen and show you what that looks like here. Am I sharing my screen? It says I am. Thumbs up. So you can see through this story maps platform, we've been able to curate these submissions. So it might be loading slowly, but we have visual arts of all mediums, and we're able to record some comments from the veteran artists themselves that you can play online and understand more about their experience and what went into creating these works. So you can visit texasfolklife.org or artsparktx.org or our Facebook pages to learn more about how you can access this exhibit, because it's somewhat of an unwieldy long link here. But we're really proud of what we've been able to do with this online virtual medium, and looking forward to future collaboration. So I'll stop it there, and we can get back for discussion.
Yeah, I just want to say it was marvelous to be able to work with Texas Folklife on this, because we've always done exhibits. This is our 11th year of doing an exhibit of art by veterans. And so Texas Folklife was going to be our host this year for the in-person exhibit. And so when all of this happened in March and things got shut down, they were the ones that stepped up and came to us and said, let's do it virtual. We need to do it virtual. And they really have taken the lead on it. And I couldn't be happier and thrilled with the way that it has turned out, and encourage everyone to go to our website, ArtSparkTX, to the veteran link, or to go to Texas Folklife website to see the exhibit. It just launched today, so we're very thrilled.
Thank you both so much, and I hope everybody takes the time to go to those links and experiences it. There's so much amazing creative work. The arts have not stopped in the pandemic, and they have kept on creating, and people like you are providing the leadership to make that happen. So thank you all. Unless you have any other conversation between the two of you, again, promote your websites, make sure people follow up. I want to leave this session today with it's a 6-minute podcast that we're going to listen to, and it is by Marianne Carter, who's the director of the National Endowment for the Arts, and she's speaking expressly to Veterans Day and to the role of healthcare and veterans, and it's just a fine note for us to close on. Before we do start that, I do want to thank everyone again for joining us today. I hope to see everyone next Wednesday, the 18th of November at 4 o'clock, to also to speak more about our own Texas legislative session, which is beginning in January. But without further ado, let us hear the remarks of Marianne Carter. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks a lot.
I'm Josephine Reed from the National Endowment for the Arts with the Chairman's Corner, a weekly podcast with Marianne Carter, Chairman of the Arts Endowment. This is where we'll discuss issues of importance to the arts community and a whole lot more. November 11th is Veterans Day, so it's fitting to take a moment to mark the lives and stories of our veterans. And Marianne, I know you wanted to talk about Creative Forces, the National Endowment for the Arts Military Healing Arts Network.
That's right, Joe. Not only do I love Creative Forces, I think it is one of our best initiatives, but I'm also the daughter of a career military officer. So whatever we can do to help our military men and women is really important to me. And through Creative Forces, the Arts Endowment partners with the U.S. Departments of Defense and Veterans Affairs and our state and local arts agencies. The initiative seeks to improve the health, wellness, and quality of life for military and veteran populations exposed to trauma, as well as helping their families and caregivers.
Well, about a year and a half ago, the Arts Endowment announced funding for 10 community connection projects at Creative Forces clinical sites across the country. And I'm really curious about these. Tell us about them.
Well, these projects grew out of previously held summits conducted at each of the clinical sites. Those summits offered an opportunity for the local military community to meet the local arts community and together begin to figure out ways that they could support each other through the arts. The projects varied, of course, because the sites and communities where they're located varied. And many of the projects now have moved online because of the pandemic. But let me give you some examples of the activities we're supporting. In Vista, California, Vet Art will offer online clay sculpture workshops for veterans and their families. The online classes will give participants a chance to share their sculptures, ask questions, and just do sculpting exercises together. The Chesapeake Shakespeare Company in Baltimore, Maryland, is offering online classes focused on Shakespeare's comedies with lessons in storytelling, improvisation, theater crafts, and more. And in Jacksonville, North Carolina, the Creative Forces Open Studio hosts weekly online gatherings for military connected people who learn about art, creative techniques, and discover new tools and products.
And there's also an ongoing project that emerged from the community connection efforts in Florida. It's called Vet Art Span in Tampa, Florida. And I'm curious about Vet Art Span.
Vet Art Span is designed to demonstrate an artistic roadmap in support of the healing, wellness, and reintegration of our veteran citizens and their families. Among programs at Vet Art Span are podcasts and videos. There are some outstanding stories among both of these. Here's an example of one of the podcasts. Reed Franklin is a Vietnam veteran who found music and a return trip to Vietnam to be powerful means to heal physically, mentally, and emotionally. Shortly after being diagnosed with cancer, Reed decided to return to Vietnam after leaving the battlefield more than 40 years ago. He ended up playing music for hospital patients in Vietnam, singing with school children, and singing in orphanages. Among his many experiences is learning that the 1972 song by the Carpenters, Top of the World, was very popular in Vietnam. Reed concludes by saying he made a decision years ago, quote, not to hate anybody, try to love everybody, be kind to everyone, and it makes life so simple. As far as I'm concerned, we're all related, we're all cousins, end quote. And I'm really glad to report that finally, after 4 cancer surgeries and treatments, Reed is now cancer-free.
That's good to hear. That's a great story. And you also mentioned there were videos from Vet Art Span?
Yes, and let me highlight just one. This is called Operation Art of Valor at the Moraine Art Center in St. Petersburg, Florida, where vets learn to create glass sculptures as individuals and as part of a creative team in an on-site hot shop. The vets are involved in the entire process from developing the concept of each piece to handling the 2,000-degree molten glass to the completed product. Listening to the vets talk about their experience is so moving. The esprit de corps that was foundational to their military careers is evident in how they talk about wanting to fulfill their roles in a group project to, quote, not let anyone down. And they note how the careful choreography required on the floor of the hot shop keeps them in the present, in the now, not dwelling on any problems or worries. And one of the hot shop instructors working with the vets said, art is healing, and that's it. That's all there is to it. Doesn't matter how you approach it, you're healing something inside of you. And if it's not inside of you, it's inside someone else. And Joe, I have been to the Maureen Art Center. I have met with some of these veterans. I have seen the glass sculpting done in person, and it's magnificent.
Marianne, that's a great place to leave it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
That was Marianne Carter, chairman of the National Endowment for the Arts. You can find out more about Creative Forces and all the work done at the Arts Endowment by going to arts.gov. I'm Josephine Reed. Stay safe, and thanks for listening.
That's a final thank you to all of you for joining us today. Appreciate the remarks of Marianne Carter and all of you and the hard work you're doing here. I just want to reiterate, and Charlie, you had just shared with me that in the work that you do, you work with veterans and active duty military service as advisors, as instructors, and that they're a critical part of your teams. And I think that's a really important thing to share. So, and also on when Marianne Carter was speaking about the respective summits that were happening around the country, that was one of those, Texas was one of those that Gary had referenced. And I know that we were all up there at Fort Hood experiencing that really remarkable summit that you had. So again, I encourage anybody watching to Google all of these organizations, Texas Commission on the Arts, Texas Folklife, and ArtSpark Texas, and find, dig deep into their pages and discover this work for yourself, and be in touch with the Texas Commission on the Arts if you're an artist with opportunities and ideas on grant programs that you would be interested in following up with. So thank you all. We hope to see everybody again next Wednesday at 4 o'clock for another round of Texans for the Arts Advocacy Actions update. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.